Let me let you go.
Crisis with an expert. Doctor.
Are you finished?
Yes, I'm
Okay, all
done.
right, then we'll go back on the record. Ms. Checka, it's my turn to ask you questions. We met before the deposition. I'm Jennifer Ziegenhorn, and I represent Mr. Swinson. Now, I'm sitting down here at the end of the table, the video camera's right there in front of you, and plaintiff's lawyers have three attorneys lined up, so I'm pretty far down here. So just so the record reflects that you're not shifty-eyed, you're just looking at me because I'm down here at the end of the table, okay?
All right.
And since I'm pretty far away, if you can't hear me, you just let me know if you can't hear my question or don't understand,
Okay.
okay? Now, as I understand your testimony this morning, the reason that this policy, this claim was denied was because of the improper question on the driving record and the misinformation that was provided on the application on the driving record. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so information was provided, and upon digging deeper, you found out, or the Midwest found out, that the information provided was not correct.
That's correct.
And that not only that it was not correct, but when you investigated further, the correct information showed that there was a risk involved with this insured that would have caused you not to issue the policy. Is that correct?
Checked before.
That is correct.
Okay. Now, just to be clear, the reason that this policy was denied, this claim was denied, was not because Mr. Swinson was present when the insured signed the application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the fact that Mr. Swinson was not there when the application was signed is not the basis for the denial.
Correct.
Now, when you looked at the file, in addition to the driving record issue, you found other reasons that the policy might have been denied. Is that correct?
That's correct. I found other reasons.
Okay. But the reason was simply the driving record issue.
Correct.
And there were some, in your prior testimony, there were references to the agent in this case, which is Mr. Swinson. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And by agent, were you referring to what's typically called an insurance agent?
Yes, that's correct.
So you were referring to his job title, not making a conclusion under the law that he was the company's legal agent. Is that correct?
I was making an assumption based on his job title and then the number, the agent number on the application.
Okay, so you were referring to him as an insurance agent, not making a legal conclusion that he was an agent for the company for all purposes under the law.
Correct.
Because you're not qualified to make that determination.
You are correct.
Okay. Now, when the agent takes information from an applicant and the information is completed, put on the application to be submitted to Midwest, does Midwest require the insurance agent to do an independent study to verify that the information is correct?
No, they just take the information the applicant gives them.
Okay, so whoever the applicant is, whatever information they provide, that's the only information that the insurance agent has.
That's correct.
Okay. And so if you would not anticipate in this case that Mr. Swinson would have any information about Mr. Nichols' driving record other than what was provided to him?
Check this one.
I'm relying on the fact that Mr. Nichols gave the correct answers on the application.
Okay. And you would assume that that's what the agent relies on as well?
Correct.
And the insurance agent, Mr. Swenson in this case, he's not part of underwriting, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so he does not even make a determination as to whether the information will be independently verified, is that correct?
That's correct.
And he doesn't decide whether a background check is going to be done on the application, is that correct?
That's correct.
He doesn't decide whether to get medical records
That's
on
correct.
the application. He doesn't decide whether to get a driving record, is that correct?
That's correct.
Or he doesn't decide whether to get a criminal check, is that
That's correct.
His role is to take information from the applicant and provide it to the company.
That's correct.
Do you have any reason to believe that Mr. Nichols, in this case, would have provided different information to Mr. Swenson than he provided to his own mother and sister?
I have
Check
no way
this
of
one.
knowing.
But you don't have any reason to believe
No.
that he would provide different information to
I do
Mr.
not.
Swenson?
I do
Same
not.
objection.
Mr. Swenson was not involved in making the decision whether to issue the policy in this case, is that correct?
That is correct.
And he was not involved in the decision to deny the claim, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the policy in this case, it was not issued by Mr. Swenson, is that correct?
That is correct.
In fact, he's not a party to the contract, is that correct?
Correct.
It's Midwest and the Nichols, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, in this case, the plaintiffs are Delania Nichols and Diane Nichols. Are you familiar with who they are in relationship to the insured?
I believe one is his mother and one is his sister.
And are you familiar with those are the two people who originally provided information for the application?
That's what I read, yes.
Okay, so it's your understanding that the people who provided the information on the application and presented the application to the insured are also the ones that are pursuing this case as the beneficiaries under the policy, is that correct?
That's
Check this
correct.
one.
And as I understand your testimony, if the information on the policy, on the application had been correct, and underwriting at the time would have pulled the information, they most likely would not have issued a policy, is that correct? That
is correct.
And so ultimately, in this case, once you did find out the correct information, the claim was denied, is that correct?
That is correct.
And I assume the premiums were refunded?
I believe that is what happened.
Okay. And so whether the insurance company, whether Midwest found out the truth on the application at the time of the application or at the time of the claim, the end result is the same, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the application on this case, in this case, it did have a signature that did appear to be Mr. Nichols, is that correct?
The signature said Mr. Nichols.
Okay. And the company relies on those signatures as a matter of course, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the company does not do any type of independent investigation on a regular basis as to whether the applicant is illiterate or literate or has a college degree or anything like that, is that correct?
That's correct.
You assume that by his signature, if he's willing to sign the paper, then he's willing to take the responsibility that what he is signing is the truth, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in this case, you have no reason to believe that Mrs. Delana Nichols and Mrs. Diane Nichols did not read the policy and the answers to Mr. Nichols. Is that correct?
Check to the form.
I have no way of
You
knowing.
have one way or the other.
Right.
As far as you know, they did read it to him. Is that right?
Check to the form.
That could be correct. I have no way of knowing if they did or they didn't.
Okay. But you do know that he signed it.
I do know he signed it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
I have just a couple. How long have you been involved in underwriting,
27 years.
whether for life or health?
27 years.
Based upon your review of this case, was the underwriting, both at the time the application was reviewed and the policy issued, and then afterward, to the extent it was reviewed again after the claim was made, consistent with the policy and procedures of every company essentially that you worked for in 27 years in underwriting?
Yes.
Check to the form.
Does information, as an underwriter, as the manager of underwriting for Midwest at the time of this incident, would information that Mr. Nichols had been charged with reckless driving, DUI, and driving with a license suspended or canceled, and speeding, would that influence the judgment of the underwriter as to whether or not to issue the policy?
Check to the form.
Yes, it would have.
Would information that Mr. Nichols had been convicted of assault and was on probation for that charge within a 5-year period of the application have influenced the judgment of the company in determining whether to issue the policy?
Check to the form.
Yes, we would have investigated further.
Would information such as the fact that Mr. Nichols was hospitalized for a gunshot wound in the years preceding the application, would that have influenced the judgment of the company in determining whether to make the insurance contract?
Check to the form.
Yes, we would have investigated further.
And I just want to make sure, because it's been said a couple times, based upon your review of the file and your history with the company and with other companies, had Mr. Nichols had the information on the application to 5A and B been yes instead of no, and you learned that Mr. Nichols had been charged with reckless driving, driving while license suspended, revoked, or canceled, speeding, DUI, public intoxication, another driving while license suspended, revoked, or canceled, and reckless driving, would the company have issued this policy?
Check to the form.
No, they wouldn't have. The points would have added up to a number right above the declination, and looking at the total picture, it's a discretionary or a judgment call. I wouldn't have issued the policy, and I don't believe an underwriter for Midwest would have issued at that time.
No more questions?
Who's next?
Well, we need to probably take a lunch break. If you're going to go about as long as we did with her.
I don't know how much she's gonna know.
We need to, We need to shut, like I told you yesterday, we need to cut off, or in an email, we need to cut off about 4, because they gotta get back on a plane.
All the more reason for us to go ahead and let's see if we can get it done.
Well, but of course, I want the witness to be comfortable. We got 2 options. We can either take a break right now, or we can go to about 1 and see how they're doing, and take a break, and whatever you want to do. The second one?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all right with you? I tend to not like my witnesses to skip lunch if we can avoid it.
Well, I thought she just said it was fine.
It's
for us
fine to go ahead.
To go ahead till about
To
1.
go ahead and go.
Yeah.
Till about 1.
She said to go ahead and go now, right?
Yes.
Right.
That's
No,
right.
until about 1, and then we'll see where we are, but.
Your witness is saying, let's go ahead and go. I don't know if,
I think that y'all
let's
are-
put her under
Go-
oath and.
I gave her 2 options.
Go-
One to
Go
break
to-
now.
Go to lunch now or go to the deposition now?
Go to the deposition now.
There you go.
And what I'm saying as her lawyer, whether she says it or not, whether you
Okay.
understood it or not, was about 1 o'clock, we'll see where you are. If you've got a lot left, we need to take a break so she can eat some lunch.
Sure, okay.
Because she already asked me about 20 minutes ago if she can eat lunch.
Let's get started.
You want to talk?
Huh?
You want to talk for a second?
No, I'm ready to go. I think y'all are gonna have to play musical chairs, I'm sorry.
You need to come on down and. Should be right there.
Oh,
There you go.
great.
That chair.
You can go ahead and transfer.
I think, actually, that's mine. I think.
Would you raise your right hand, please, ma'am? Do you solemnly swear the testimony about hearing this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Ben Taylor. What's your name?
Carlene McEwen.
Okay, Ms. McEwen. Have you ever given a deposition before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, how many depositions have you given?
Probably around 10 or so.
And did you do it, I guess, in the role that you're doing it here today as a representative?
Of the claims department.
Okay. And this is, I guess you're here for Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee?
Yes, I am.
Were all those prior depositions, were they for Midwest National?
No.
Okay. What other companies have you represented?
The first deposition was with National Health Insurance Company, and then the others were between Midwest National and the Mega Life and Health Insurance.
Okay. Now, did those all involve claims that were denied?
No.
Okay. Did they all involve life insurance claims?
No, sir.
Okay. Did some of them involve life insurance?
No, sir.
Okay, so they were all health, I'm
That,
assuming.
that is correct.
Okay. And were they health claims that were denied?
No, sir.
Okay. Then what was the purpose of the deposition? You want?
It was disputes and coverage.
Okay. And so coverage that was denied?
Coverage that just was not available under the policies.
Okay. And so these were policies that were litigated and you came in and represented the company in court?
Not in court, no, just depositions.
Okay. For all practical purposes, we are in court. You're under oath, you understand that. And so
Yes,
everything,
yes.
I expect you to say, everything you say is truthful.
Mhm.
Where are you from?
I am from Southlake, Texas.
Is that where you live now?
Yes.
How long have you lived there?
About 19 years.
How long have you worked for Midwest National Life Insurance Company of Tennessee?
I have been employed with Health Markets, which is part of Midwest and the Mega Life, for about 5 years now.
Okay. Tell me this, I guess, who's the parent company?
From what I understand, I think it's Health Markets that actually is over Midwest National Life Insurance Company and the Mega Life.
Okay. And who do you actually work for?
From what I understand, it's all like Health Markets right now, you know, and whether it's the Mega Life or Health Markets, it's pretty much all under the same umbrella.
Who writes your check?
I believe it's Health Markets at this time, yes.
And that's as we sit here today.
Yes.
And who wrote your check? I guess, how long have you worked for Health Markets?
It's like they changed the name. Okay, my checks used to be with, it used to say the Mega Life and Health Insurance Company. And now, just recently, it's been changed to Health Markets.
Okay. And then was it ever another name before that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, because you just said they changed the names, and it seemed like the way you said it that they do it more than once.
Not since I have been there, no.
Okay. But they've done that before.
I don't really know how it worked before I came.
Okay. How long have you been there?
About 5 years.
5 years.
Mhm.
Okay. Where did you work before that?
The National Health Insurance Company.
Okay. Does that have anything to do with these companies?
No, sir.
Okay. And then prior to that insurance company, where did you work?
I had just finished college.
So have you always been in claims?
I spent, working at National Health, I started off in underwriting, spent a little time there, and then worked in our premium accounting department at National Health, and then eventually over to claims, and then going into being hired by the Mega Life and Health Insurance Company. I started off in their Special Investigations Department, and I'm currently with the Consumer Affairs Department.
Okay. What's the Special Investigations Department?
When I was with them, we did subrogation and fraud investigations.
Now, do you work in the same building as the other witness that was here?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so y'all work for the same company then?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you aware of, I guess, what happened with Midwest National Life in Oklahoma?
I don't have that much history on the Oklahoma office.
So the answer is no, you don't know.
I don't know what. Your question again? I'm sorry.
Okay, well, they're no longer in operations in Oklahoma, is that right?
That is correct,
Okay,
yes.
and when did that happen?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with the claims handling processes in Oklahoma?
I had a chance to review their claims processing manual, and that, as well as the claims file on this particular case. Yes, sir.
The claims processing manual, do you have that with you today?
It's packed, but I do have it with me, yes.
Okay, well, could you go ahead and get it for me right now?
Here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's been produced in Discovery.
Mhm.
That version doesn't have date stamps on it.
I want to make this an exhibit, the next exhibit.
What's that?
It wasn't, but don't worry about it.
Just chronologically keep marking.
For the record, it was produced in May of 2007, and Bates number is WM Nichols 190-0192-0271.
Okay. You reviewed that claims manual. Is it similar to the claims manual that you use currently?
We don't do life claims
Okay.
at our office, or at least I'm not involved with life claims in our office.
Okay. Have you ever been involved with life claims?
Other than to provide our insured's attorneys with documents that they need in order to proceed with a life claim. That's the extent of my involvement before.
Okay. And so with regards to this particular company, Midwest National Life Insurance Company in Tennessee, I mean, my question to you is, are you familiar with their claims handling practices in regards to this lawsuit?
From what I've studied in the manual and their claim file, yes, I am familiar with it.
Okay. And so I guess number 3, exhibit number 3 is the policies and procedures that you reviewed.
Yes.
And then you've also got the claim file. And if you could, I mean, have you got a copy of that as well?
Again, it's packed up,
Okay.
and it's, I mean, I had this, and I was given the underwriting guideline for the point system.
Okay. Yeah, where is that? What are
The
what's
underwriting
point
guide,
system?
it's this
Well,
document right here.
this is my stuff, but,
I'm sorry.
this is just a printout off the internet.
Yeah.
Is it bait stamped? Is
No.
it something that we can, if you would, let's take a look at that and.
No, this
Oh,
is
is
my
that-
material, and
Oh,
so I'm gonna
I'm
keep this
sorry.
myself. It's got
This
my
was-
notes on it. and-
Okay, I'm not sure that it looked like what I had looked at. It was the point system that the underwriting guideline had used to determine the number of points that are assigned for like driving under the influence, reckless driving, such.
Could you get that for me?
Can I get it for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Okay. Excuse me. Gosh. Okay. This.
Okay, let's mark that as the next exhibit.
And what is it? Points?
Exhibit number 4, and I've never seen it myself, so.
Okay.
I'll hand it back to you. At the bottom, it's got a date. It looks like it was printed off the internet. Is that right?
It looks like it, yes.
Did you print that off?
No, I
Okay.
did not.
What's the date that it was printed off?
It appears it was May 19, 2006.
Okay. And then it's got a web address down at the bottom of it that indicates the page that it was drawn from. It says Canada Life. I believe, actually Canada Life Ray, like reinsurance. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what is Canada Life?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, now I guess, is it Midwest National Life Insurance Company's practice to use other insurance companies' point systems?
I don't have any idea.
Okay. But to get back to what you were testifying to, you reviewed that, and that based on the information in the claims file and that point system, which we just marked as an exhibit,
Yes.
then he would not, I guess, have qualified to be issued a policy. Is that right?
I believe this would have determined that further investigation would needed to have been done.
Okay. And you talking about the point system or the fact that he had moving violation?
The moving violations.
Okay. And so let's say that the moving violations was disclosed, and then you're not gonna, refuse the policy at that point. You're just gonna ask for more information. What kind of information would you ask?
Let me just object to the form. She's here to talk about claims, not underwriting.
Yes.
Okay. Well, then why are you looking at the point processes for underwriting?
This was just part of the file that I reviewed.
Okay. Well, what other part of the file did you review?
The medical records, the criminal records, his application for the life insurance, copy of the policy. Let me see. I believe that was about it.
Have you seen the notice of deposition?
Wait.
Number one.
No, I have not.
Okay. Now, you're here, I guess, as a witness in this case, and we asked for certain areas of inquiry, and for someone to come here and testify as to those areas. And what I need for you to do is go through on page 2, deposition subject matters, and tell me which areas that you're here to testify about.
Again, I'll just,
And I'm going to stop you right there. This witness is under oath, and she's going to testify for me as to what areas of inquiry she's been noticed here for. You're not going to say another word.
object to the form of the question.
Okay, go ahead.
I've been called to testify on behalf of the claims processing of this life.
Okay, tell me which number.
Okay. Number 4, number 5, number 6, let's see. Looks like number 19. That appears that would be it.
So you can't testify here regarding number 8.
Number 8. Oh, if they involve the claims information, yes,
Okay.
I can. Okay.
Okay, well, and I guess just clarify for me, what information involved in this lawsuit would not involve the claims?
I don't have any idea.
Okay. You know who would?
Okay, number 8 says all non-privileged information. And I don't know what other information you're going to want. I mean, I can give you information about the claims, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. But as far as this company is concerned, you can't testify as to the allegations and the facts which are the subject of the lawsuit.
The allegations and the facts. I mean, as far as, I don't know what the allegations are. I know what the facts, as far as this particular, as far as the claims go.
Okay. Okay, so okay. So we're clear, you're here on 19, 4, 5, and 6.
Object to the form. She's here to offer testimony about those subjects. She's not here on the notice. We object to the notice. We don't ever serve with them.
Okay. But you're here to testify regarding the process by which plaintiff's claim for life insurance benefits on the subject policy was considered and denied.
Yes,
You're the best person at this company to talk to about that.
yes,
Okay. And the same for number 5, number 6, and number 19.
yes.
Okay. Number 6 is all communications and contact between the company and Diane Nichols, Delaney Nichols, and Antonio Nichols. And I know you were here earlier for the deposition. You've been in the room here. There's a portion of the claims file where there's some handwritten notes regarding a telephone conversation. And it looks like an agent of the company or an employee wrote that since the agent, Mr. Swinson, was not present when that Antonio was not present when the application was filled out, that it would still be null and void. Do you remember seeing that?
Object to the form.
And what was explained before,
My question is, do you
Okay.
remember seeing that?
I do remember seeing the entire written note,
Okay.
phone note
Okay.
that was taken, yes.
And is that something that's normal process and procedure at the insurance company, is for y'all to use handwritten notes for telephone calls?
With the Oklahoma office, apparently it was,
Okay. In the Texas office, you use a computer, right?
yes.
Okay. And do you know who that person was that wrote that down?
No, I do not.
Who does at the company?
That wrote the note that you're specifically addressing. I'm not sure. I'm sure that if you can give me a copy of it, maybe.
And actually, what I was going to do, I know we've gone through, you've got the claims manual, you've got your point system, and then I think your testimony was you've not seen the notice, but then what other documents have you looked at? You said the claims file?
I did, and I actually saw that telephone. I saw the notes from that telephone call.
Sure, I know, we're going to get back to that, but I guess you're talking about this.
I
Is
did
this the
see
claims
that,
file?
yes.
Do you have your copy of this?
Yes.
Can you get it for me, please?
There were any notes in there.
I'm not sure if this is all of it, but no, I have no notes in this. No. Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I do.
Can I see that?
No, not yet. What notes do you have? Okay. Yes.
I believe that's it.
I can live with that.
And so this.
No, it's fine.
Can I see that?
Yes.
This looks like it's documents, Bates stamped, M.W. Nichols 001 through M.W. Nichols 0071.
Okay.
Is that right?
0071 and yes.
Okay, and then do you have the rest of the file? I guess,
don't know if I would have any other documents other than that.
Okay. I'll just represent to you, M.W. Nichols 0072 is the underwriting file. Do you not have that?
I may have had that. I couldn't tell you if I did or not.
There's a portion of the underwriting file, and you were here earlier for the testimony,
Yes.
where the underwriter had a letter to the agent regarding questions. It was an agent questionnaire.
Yes.
And she didn't know why it was in the underwriting file and said, I believe her lawyer also said, well, that's a claims question, so now I'm going to ask you all those questions. Even though they're not in your portion of the file. Is that right?
I couldn't tell you what part is in there as opposed to what you've got there.
Okay. And you don't know if you've looked at both of them. You know that you've looked at the claims file, right?
I remember seeing the letter to the agent along with the questionnaire.
Okay. And is that something in claims that you normally do, is send letters like that to agents?
In this particular investigation, it looked like it was routine, part of their routine procedure.
Okay. And that's my question is that routine in claims?
I deal mostly with health insurance, not with life insurance. And I don't know if that's a routine for the life insurance examiners to do. I don't know.
Do you know who would know the answer to that question?
I'm not sure. No, sir.
Do you know who Pam Smith is?
I gathered from the documents that I reviewed that she was a manager in the claims department.
Okay. And I guess her job is essentially what your job is in Texas, right? Are you the manager of the claims department?
No, I'm not the manager of the claims department.
Okay, then what's your, I guess, title?
I work in consumer affairs as a investigator.
Okay. So you're not even in the claims department now, is that
No,
what you're
sir.
saying? Okay. Who is in the claims department now?
As far as the manager of the claims department, I believe it's Denise Lydecker. Denise, D-E-N-I-S-E, and then Lydecker, L-Y-N-D-E-C-K-E-R. And I'm not sure if what her married name is. I don't know.
Do you know how long she's been with the company?
No, sir, I don't.
I don't want to go over questions I think that have already been answered, but I want to make sure that I'm asking the right person. Are you here to talk about the denial of this claim on behalf of the insurance company?
I can talk about it. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me why this claim was denied?
There was undisclosed history on the application that would have precluded the insured or the individual from being issued a life policy.
And you rescinded the policy, is that right?
That is correct.
And did you see in the file where the original was returned to the insurance company per their request?
Yes, I did.
Is that part of the policy and procedure at the insurance company?
Yes, it is.
Why?
At the time that the individual ceases, the policy is no longer in effect, is what my understanding is. And the policy is requested, the original policy is requested by the company to be returned.
Why? Why is that important?
You know, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Who would know?
I'm not sure.
And that's another thing, we got in at the beginning of this deposition, I think there's a question as to whether or not we have a full copy of the policy. Do you know whether or not there's a full and complete copy of the policy here available to us today?
I don't know if there is or not.
Who would know?
We may be able to retrieve one from the company, from Midwest, someone in the Dallas office or the North Richland Hills office.
From the, I'm sorry,
The home office, which
Wh-
is in North Richland Hills, Texas.
okay, and that's different than the Dallas office?
There is no Dallas office. Not that I know of. I don't know. North Richland Hills is a suburb of Dallas and Fort Worth.
Okay, now, is
Okay.
that the office that you work at?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so your testimony is there may be someone there that can get us a full and complete copy of this policy.
I would think so, yes, sir.
Is there also someone there who has the actual original policy that was returned to y'all by the insurer?
I don't know.
But you saw in the file that that is in fact what happened?
They requested that, and apparently they did receive it.
Okay. And then you see in there where we requested it back and we were told that we were not going to get it?
That's right, yes.
Okay. Do you know why we didn't receive it back?
No, sir.
Okay. So as far as you know, the original policy is in your possession?
Object to the form.
It should be it may be in the office. I don't know.
Okay. And you don't know who would know the answer to that question?
I'm sure someone in the home office would know. Who specifically? No.
Okay. If I were to ask you right now, I'm not going to ask you to do this, but if I were to ask you right now to get on the phone and try to track down this policy,
Mhm.
who would be the first person you would call?
Someone in our fulfillment office, our department, fulfillment department.
Who heads up the fulfillment department?
Right now, I'm not sure who that is, but
Okay. Have you seen this flow chart before?
no, I haven't.
Are you familiar with any of the names on it?
I've seen Charmaine Hopkins' name on some of the documents, Pam Smith's name on some of the documents in this claim file. Other than that, no.
Let's make that as the next exhibit. It's your testimony that the reason this claim was denied was because certain driving, I guess, histories were not reported. And those driving histories, using that point system that's been marked, what exhibit is that, number 4, would have caused you not to issue the policy. Is that your testimony?
Object to the form.
I believe it would have caused the underwriting department to actually investigate a little further into his medical history or motor vehicle history.
And when you received this claim, did you send it to the underwriting department?
According to the claim file, they had requested a vendor obtain medical records, motor vehicle records, interviews, medical history, of the insured.
And this was a request that was made after the claim was made?
After notice of the claim, yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that the normal protocol for your insurance company?
It appears to be the normal protocol for this insurance company, yes, sir.
Okay. And that's also a process called post-claim underwriting. Have you ever heard that term?
I don't believe at that point it was post-claim underwriting.
Okay. Why not?
They were trying to determine whether the claim itself, the life claim, was a legitimate claim.
Okay. And, well, I mean, that's what I'm getting at. You don't think they were underwriting the claim after the claim was made?
They were investigating the claim to determine if benefits were owed.
Okay. Well, if it's not post-claims underwriting, why was the claim sent to underwriting after the claim was made?
It was sent to underwriting after all the medical records and the motor vehicle documents and the court records were received.
Okay. Now, could all those documents have been received before issuing the policy?
If,
Check the form.
What's wrong with that question?
Again, she's not here to talk about underwriting. She's talking about the
I'm not
policy.
talking about underwriting. I'm talking about the claim itself.
the only way that that information would have been obtained is through the underwriting department when the application was received.
Okay. But no, you just testified that the claims department requested all that information.
Yes, yes. We did request that information after receiving notice of the death.
Okay. And why do you do that?
We were notified that Mr. Nichols had died from a gunshot wound. And at that point in time, you need medical records to determine the circumstances of the shooting, of the circumstance, of what caused it.
Why does that make a difference? Why someone got shot or the circumstances?
There are exclusions in the policy.
Okay. What are they? Can you point them out to me?
Point them out in a policy.
Well, I know that's a
Or-
problem. We don't
what-
have the policy, but
Okay.
if you could, with the documents that you have, I guess I do have your documents, this 1 through, what is it, 71? Let's go, we'll mark this as the next exhibit, and then I'll let you look at it.
Let's see. Okay. Under the accidental death and dismemberment rider that's in the policy.
If you would,
I'm
at the
sorry.
very bottom of the page,
Yes.
just tell me what date stamp number you're looking at.
19.
Okay.
Okay, it states that, let's see, the amount is provided for such injury and the insured's death are not intentionally self-inflicted. And so, based on a provision such as that, it's routine investigation for the claims department to obtain medical records, police records.
Okay. And that's medical records and police records of the actual incident, so on the date of death, right?
Right.
Okay. So you would need medical records for 5 years before that?
It depends on, what they want to request. I don't know.
Okay. But you're basically looking to see whether or not he killed himself.
Killed himself or what the circumstances were.
You're going to
surrounding
be
the
more.
gunshot.
You're going to have to be more specific on these other circumstances. What other circumstances in the policy are we talking about?
There's on page 20. You have the exclusions and limitations, and number 7 is committing or trying to commit a felony or other illegal act. Number 9 is being under the influence as described in the laws of the place where the accident occurs of alcohol, drug, or controlled substance. Because of the exclusions, they're having to determine whether the death was covered under this policy.
Okay. Now, under the circumstances of this incident, do you know what happened to Mr. Nichols?
I did read in the claim file that he was shot by someone else.
Okay. And do you know the circumstances of that?
Not really, no, sir.
Okay. Is that not important?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, who at your company knows the answer to that question?
It may be somewhere in these records. I did see where he was shot for like $5 by a person in front of his house. Other than that, I don't really know any other circumstances. I mean, there was a police report. There were some details from a police interview, I believe, that I reviewed. And I read the autopsy report. But what information is it exactly that you're wanting to know?
Okay, well, I'm just wanting to know what you based, when you're doing your investigation of this
Mhm.
claim,
Yes.
why you're getting medical records, and you explained to me that it's to make sure that he didn't kill himself, and you want medical records on the day of the death, or the day of the incident. And then you also said that you look at police reports,
Mhm.
and that you, I guess, look at witness reports or other things.
Mhm.
I'm sure you probably pull an obituary. It's probably one of the first things that's done when a claim comes in. Is that fair enough?
I believe there was an obituary copy
Okay.
in that file, yes.
And you've reviewed all of that,
Mhm.
and you agree with me that the circumstances surrounding Mr. Nichols' death, there was no exclusion in this policy for the circumstances surrounding his death.
Not for the circumstances surrounding his death. No, sir.
And so in the claims process, I guess you went further at that point, is that correct?
No, sir. We took the information that was obtained during that investigation.
Okay. And that information is that he was killed by someone else.
Yes.
And you had a date of death.
Mhm.
And so you requested the medical information to confirm that it was not self-inflicted, that, he wasn't doing anything wrong, he wasn't committing a crime. Am I right?
That's right.
And that therefore no exclusions under the policy applied.
That is correct.
Okay. And then I guess the claims process, you went further in the claims process and started pulling his driver history. Is that right?
All of that was done at the same time that the autopsy was obtained, the court records were obtained, the interview with the mother was obtained. All that was done at the same time, at the
Okay.
very beginning, after notice of the
And
claim.
let me ask you then, why? Why are you getting information, on his background prior to the application at the time the claim was made?
The investigation should not be done in a piecemeal process, for one thing. You should obtain all your information at the very beginning, which is what this claims department did. And they obtained a criminal history record of this individual that disclosed a criminal history that was not disclosed on his application. It also disclosed medical history that was not disclosed on his application.
Why are you looking for that stuff?
That just happens to be something in the records that were obtained during this routine investigation.
Part of the routine investigation is to pull his criminal activity and to pull his driving record for the past 5 years, 10 years, right?
It just happened to be part of the information that was uncovered during this investigation.
Right. And why are you trying to uncover information like that from someone's past?
It's not that you try to uncover anything. They requested medical records on this individual.
Okay.
And they interviewed the mother. And this is all part of their investigation.
And that's what I want to talk about. I mean, I understand that. I understand initially why you would want the medical records from the day he died, why you would want the police report, why you would want things like that. But why do you want his driving history for 5 years prior to his application for insurance at the time this claim is made?
I don't know if that's part of their procedures that they had at the insurance, at the life office.
Is it part of your policy now?
I don't know if it is or not. I don't handle life claims.
So you don't even know at all?
I don't know what our procedure is now. No, sir.
And you don't know what it was then?
I have read the procedure manual that they had at that time.
Okay, in the manual, show me where it says we're going to pull their driving history 5 years before the application.
It just states that an investigation is done. Let me see. Okay. claims.
What page number are you on?
Let me see, it starts on page 8, and, let's see.
That's page 8 of, what exhibit is it?
3.
Okay, and what does it say?
Okay, it's just the beginning of death claim procedures. On page 9, it talks about right before receipt approves, it states that any claims occurring within the contestable period need to be identified at the time they are reported, referred to the senior examiner.